Dear students, this video is the continuation of Restoration England and its impact on the social life. In video 1, we had learnt what is meant by Restoration England, what are the evidences for restoration, how the monarchy was different from the previous one, and the formation of the two political parties, the Whigs and the Tories. Now, in this video, you are going to learn the other important events that happened after Charles II restored to the throne. After Charles II became the king, Cromwell's cavalry, the other name for the Ironside army, was dismissed, and the Cavalier Parliament of England assembled in 1661. This Cavalier Parliament lasted started from 8th May 1661 to 24th January 1679. It was the longest English Parliament. That is, it lasted for nearly 18 years with Charles II as the King of England. Like its predecessor, that is the Puritan Parliament, which is a conventional one. The majority of the Cavalier Parliament were royalists, and it is also known as the Pensioner Parliament because it granted many pensions to the supporters of the King Charles II. What are the other important events that happened during the Restoration? We will see one by one. The Cavalier Parliament, which assembled in 1661, decided to restore the Anglican Church with its bishops and prayer book. Charles II and his chief minister, the Earl of Clarendon, didn't wish to be severe in implementing their decisions based on religion, race, or politics. But the Parliament, that is the Cavalier Parliament, insisted on passing the Persecution Act known as the Clarendon Code. It passed three important acts. The first one was the Corporation Act. It placed the government of town corporations in the hands of Anglicans. That is, Anglicans were given more power. The second one was the Act of Uniformity. This made the use of the prayer book compulsory. But the Puritans who refused to obey, who refused to use the prayer book of Anglicans were punished. These two acts succeeded in deepening the separation between the Anglican Church and the dissenters. Dissenters means people who do not agree with the decisions taken by the Anglican Church. The third one is the Quaker Act. This Quaker Act banned Quaker meetings. Those who disobeyed were punished. For example, John Bunyan, the author of The Pilgrim's Progress, was imprisoned under this Quaker Act, and he spent 12 years in jail. Such a long imprisonment, but he was punished for disobeying the Quaker Act. The decisions taken by the Cavalier Parliament had its own impact. What is it? We will see here. Only those who belonged to the Church of England were given active role in the government of the country. So Anglicans ruled England for centuries. But the dissenters, that is those who disagreed with them, were placed in lower rank of social order. Not only the dissenters, but also the Roman Catholics were kept away from all participation in local and national government. Harsh steps were taken to harass the Puritans. As far as the landowners are considered, the Cavalier Parliament restored the lands which were confiscated by the Commonwealth government to the previous owners. So the owners of the land who got back their lands became loyal to Anglican Church. They formed the upper class and were united to the Church of England. These men and women became patrons of the church they belonged, that is, the supporters of the church. For example, Joseph Addison, a famous essayist, whose essay entitled Sir Roger at Church gives an accurate picture of the social side of rural worship. Puritans were followers of strict morals. Puritanism is their religious movement that aimed at reforming the Church of England. During Puritan government, outdoor activities were not permitted to the Englishmen. After Charles II became the king, all those forbidden outdoor activities were permitted again. Hunting, trapping, trapping is deceiving, snaring, snaring is catching birds and mammals, and shooting were revived. That is, the Englishmen started all these outdoor activities. They participated with enthusiasm in these outdoor activities. Along with these, gambling and other sports also revitalized. Because of these, holiday mood gripped the whole country. The major characteristic of Restoration era was licentious nature. It had its way there in the country. Licentious nature means unprincipled. That is, the people became unprincipled. They lacked morals. There was no regard for strict rules. Drunkenness and public brawls, that is, public fights, quarrels, became common. What is the status of the Restoration theatres? The outside appearance as well as the inner appearance of the Restoration theatres is given here for your reference. You can also see the vehicles of that Restoration age. Under the Puritan government, the theatres were closed. But after Charles II became the king, the closed theatres were reopened. This licentiousness of that age affected the theatre and the society also. The people who followed chaste life under Puritan government became uncontrolled. Many of the Restoration plays were vulgar and they went far below the literary standards of Shakespeare and Marlowe. That is, there were no literary standards in the play. Restoration theatres started depending upon the patronage of the royal court. Patronage means the support. The plays also reflected the degenerate taste of the court of Charles II. Heroic tragedies, melodramas, and comedy of manners became popular. Wit, which means intelligence, and repartee, that is wordplay, were the two qualities valued more by the writers. But the techniques of the theatre improved a lot. Stage setting was introduced. Dropping the curtains also was introduced. Female roles were enacted by women. But before Charles II, that is in Elizabethan days, boys only did women's role. William Congreve and William Wycherley were the two favorite dramatists of the Restoration period. The scenario was totally different as far as research was considered. It was in the 17th century that the scientific spirit first touched the English people. So the Royal Society was founded in 1662 to encourage English people in their studies in physics and mathematics. The Royal Society building is given here in this picture. Some famous researchers and their research work were enlisted here. Isaac Newton developed infinitesimal calculus. His laws of motion and gravitation occupy an important place in physics. Edmund Halley did research on the movement of comets. He calculated the periodicity of the famous Halley's comet. Robert Boyle gave us Boyle's law. In the area of human anatomy also, William Harvey discovered the circulation of blood. Now, a brief note on the censorship, libraries, and musical spirit during the reign of Charles II were given here for your learning. The Cavalier government passed the Licensing Act to stop Puritans from writing. But this Licensing Act was cancelled after the Glorious Revolution. Private libraries became very fashionable during the Restoration period. Many fine country houses owned excellent libraries. Rich people had their own excellent libraries. Novel reading, writing diaries became the favorite pastime of the English people. For example, we have valuable records of daily life in the diaries of John Evelyn and Samuel Pepys. Both were famous diarists of the age. Violin was introduced into England. People became interested in music. Christopher Wren was very famous in architecture. In brief, the Restoration affected each and every sphere of English life, that is, political, religious, social, and literary aspects. To assess your knowledge acquisition and the outcome of your learning, follow-up work is given here. Go through these questions, recall what you have learned, organize the points, and prepare your answers. Hope you had a nice learning. Thank you for watching this video. See you in the next one.